The central and western regions, which are on either sides of Africa, receives heavy rainfall. Heavy rainfall and warm climate helps in the survival of the dense forests in this region. The zone of heavy rainfall is surrounded by the zone of moderate rainfall. The moderate rainfall zone receives rainfall only during the summers, whereas there is rainfall all around the year in the equatorial regions.
Large parts of northern Africa is mainly arid due to scanty rainfall or no rainfall for many years. This is where the Sahara Desert is situated. The Kalahari Desert is another arid region which is located in the desert.
The desert is characterized by sand, bare hills, rock pebbles and stones. Thorny bushes and short grass can be seen in some areas of the deserts.
What do you think about the vegetation in Africa? The moderate rainfall helps in the growth of tall grasses in the region, which is called savanna. The grasses grow very tall in some regions. There are some trees in between the grasslands which are also home to different kinds of wildlife. Africa is a home to various people who follow different lifestyles and speak different languages. In ancient times, some tribes lived in Africa. They carried out activities like animal husbandry, hunting and agriculture. While the hunters lived in the deserts and equatorial regions in Africa, the pastoralists lived in high plateaus and savannas, grazing the animals. Agriculture was carried on river banks and the bordering areas of the forests. Cities existed in the coastal regions and the traders from different parts of the world came to these cities for trade. Did you know that people in other continents were ignorant about Africa for a long time? The interior parts of Africa were not known to the Europeans or the Arab traders. While the Europeans knew only about the northern coastal region, the Indian and Arab traders knew only about the eastern coast of Africa. Now, let us see how the Europeans made their way into Africa. Around 500 years ago, the Europeans tried to reach India by going around Africa. The Europeans traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and stopped on the islands of Saint Meridia and Eros. Once they reached this point, they were worried about moving ahead. They also thought it would be very hot ahead and that the sea may be boiling. Students, then how do you think Europeans made their way?
In the year 1498, Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese traveler, sailed around the southern tip of Africa and finally reached India.
Students, I hope you remember the gulfs and the bays that we have studied while learning about Europe. We have studied how these gulfs and bays helped for the travel in the seas. Now, let's learn about the African coast. The Europeans tried to take control of the Africa and exploit all their resources. The Europeans took to unfair trade practices and tried to enslave or make the people of Africa their slaves. They sold the African people to other countries. The Africans then tried to resist the attempts of the Europeans and made efforts to establish themselves in their country. Now, let us have a close look at the slave trade in Africa. seen, many Europeans began to migrate to America and started cultivation there during the 16th century. At the same time, there were many lands in America, but there were not sufficient people to work on the fields. In order to employ more people, the practice of using African people as slaves came into existence.